السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونشكره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن نبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وحبيبه من بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين هاديا وبشرا ونذيرا، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده، فجزاه الله عنا خير ما جزى نبيا من أنبيائه، فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم ارض عن ساداتنا أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي، وعن سائر الصحابة والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، عباد الله، فإني أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله العلي القدير القائل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه، ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر، يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر، ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 185, chapter 2, verse 185, the month of Ramadan is that was revealed therein the Quran, as we all know, a guidance for mankind, with clear proofs of the guidance of the criterion. So whoever, Furqan is the criterion, the differentiator between the truth and the falsehood. So whoever witnesses among you the month, then he or she should fast in it. And whoever is sick or on a journey, traveler, then prescribe the number should from days other intends. In another word, they can break their fast and make it up later on. We'll get to that in a minute. Intends Allah for you the ease and not intends for you the hardship, so that you complete the prescribed period and that you magnify Allah for what He guided you, so that you may be grateful. So this month, in which the Quran was revealed as a guidance for mankind, as well as a clarification and differentiation between truth and falsehood, during this month, as we mentioned last time, the gates of mercy are opened, and we still in the days of mercy. We have a couple of more days left, so utilize them to seek the mercy of Allah in every prayer. It's not only during the time when you break your fast, or during the late night prayer, or you're doing Taraweeh at home. You do it after each prayer. Take advantage of the few days left in the days of mercy, the first 10 days. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His grace and mercy. So the gates of mercy are opened and the gates of hell are sealed. Shaitan, the accursed, and all other jinn are chained during this month, as we mentioned last time, except for a few, of course. And the rewards for good deeds performed in this month are multiplied. Sins are forgiven and supplications responded to and answered, because this is one of the times where your supplication, dua, is accepted right away while you are fasting. And this is why I'm encouraging a few more days left for the days of the first 10 days of mercy. Utilize them to ask Allah for mercy and emphasize on it. This month is the month of perseverance, mercy, compassion, and charity. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam was asked which the best type of charity was, and sallallahu alayhi wasallam said the charity of Ramadan, or given during Ramadan, is the best. And this is why a lot of us is not only charity, even the zakah. We tend, even though technically speaking or Islamically speaking, we can pay our zakah any time of the year. We don't, people under having the impression that, oh, only in Ramadan you pay the zakah. I'm talking about the zakah of the wealth, zakat al-mal. I'm not talking about zakat al-fitr. Zakat al-fitr obviously is only in Ramadan, but I'm talking about the other type of zakah. The other type of zakah you can pay all through the year, but we tend to delay it until the month of Ramadan because it gets multiplied 700 times over. And that's very understandable, and there's nothing wrong with it. Salman al-Farisi, may Allah have mercy, be pleased with him, and have mercy on his soul, reported, one of the main companions of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, reported that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam gave a speech on the last day of Sha'ban one time and said, "O people, you are being approached by a great blessed month, a month which contains a night that is better than 1,000 nights. 1,000 nights, that's what, about 83 years, right? Allah made fasting within it an obligation and made praying in that night an optional act of worship. He who performs any righteous voluntary act within it will be rewarded like one who does an obligatory act. And at any time other than during Ramadan, he who performs an obligatory act of worship within it will be rewarded like he who performs 70 acts of worship at any time outside this month. It is a month of perseverance, and perseverance is rewarded with Jannah, but paradise. It is the month of compassion, in which the sustenance of a believer increases. He who feeds a fasting person within this month has his sins forgiven, and he will be protected and released from the hellfire. He also gets the reward of that person fasting without decreasing the reward of that fasting person." Then the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, radiallahu anhum jami'an, with them, said, "O Messenger of Allah, not all of us can find the extra food needed to feed another fasting person." So Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, Allah will, subhanahu wa ta'ala, will give you the reward of a feeding fasting person, even if you were to give him just a sip of milk, a date, or a sip of water. He who feeds a fasting person until he is full, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make him drink out of my pool or my river, al-Hawd al-Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, a sip of which will never allow him to be thirsty until he or she enters Jannah. Then the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam continued, "This is the month, the beginning of which is mercy." Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we still have a couple of more days. Let's take advantage of it. The middle part of it, which we'll start next week, the middle part of it is forgiveness. And this is when we increase our asking Allah for forgiveness, astaghfirullah al-azim wa atubu ilayh, as many times as possible. If a Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said it 100 times a day, and he is infallible, he's a ma'soom, he cannot commit sins, how many times we have to say it? So increase it as many times as you can. And the last part of it, as we all know, is emancipation from the hellfire, walayadu billah. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam describing, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him there is a night in it, in this Ramadan, which is the night of the power, it's equivalent to 1,000 months, which is 83 years, like I mentioned, and 4 months. So fortunate is the person who spent this night prayer, the man or a woman who prays for the whole night during this night will deserve blessing and reward for the period, as if he or she had been praying for 83 years and 4 months consecutively. Here comes the thing. This specific year, some Muslims started on Friday and some Muslims started on Saturday. The odd night for those who started on Fridays will be even nights for those who started on Saturday. So how does that work now? How do we know which one is the night of the power or Laylatul Qadr? This is why I always tell people, the last 10 days of Ramadan, whichever whichever masjid you follow, the last 10 days, you gotta treat each day as the night of the power or Laylatul Qadr. That's the only way you guarantee yourself that you did not miss it. Right? You gotta treat each one the same way. Don't go on pointing, this is not the month to point finger, oh, they are wrong, no, I'm right, no. That doesn't work in this month. This is not the month for that. So treat each day that way. Now, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the Muslims that? Because Rasulullah ﷺ said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he sent him, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Rasulullah ﷺ to a nation that its lifespan is very short, unlike the nations before us, where they used to live more than 100 years, some nations more than 200 years, that our lifespan is short. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these nations, a lot of them, they spend that time is not even in worship. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it up for us. This is how much He honors us and He loves us. A night, this is why I emphasize, you cannot miss it. If you treat every night as Laylatul Qadr, you cannot miss it. You will hit it. Because the reward for it, whether it was a charity, whether it was a reading of a Quran, whether it was an extra prayer, whether it was an extra reading of Quran, whether it was a setting where you're sitting with your family, because we all home, reading a hadith, reading a Quran, whatever good you are doing, it will get multiplied for 83 years. That's how much is the reward. That's something we cannot miss. And this is why I always treat the last 10 days, each day is Laylatul Qadr. So that way I know I'm not going to miss the reward, and I advise everyone to do the same. So pay attention, may Allah be merciful to you all. Pay attention to the speech of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, in which he gave glad tidings of the month of Ramadan to his companions and informed them of its virtue and how the reward of the righteous deeds performed therein is multiplied. And that will apply to us. It gets multiplied 700 times. This is like good deeds on sale, right? So don't let this month pass by and you don't have all this rewards or good deeds in your side that will benefit us, inshallah, in the great first and in the day of judgment later on. And may the reward be our graves to be garden of heaven, and inshallah we'll all be in heaven in the day of judgment. So indeed, it's a great and blessed month, the month of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ, referring to the month of Ramadan, never has a better month arrived for the mu'mineen, the believers, and never has a worse month come to pass for the hypocrites. The hypocrites hate this month. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said, all the rewards of the deeds of the son of Adam are for him. He is aware of that. The reward of performing them will be multiplied by 10 to 700 times. Allah has said, except for fasting, as it is for me, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said, I shall reward it. In another word, Allah is saying that He will decide what the reward will be. This is because the fasting person leaves his desires, food and drink, purely for my sake, for Allah's sake. The fasting person has 2 times of great pleasure. Once when he breaks his fast, and the other when he meets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The smell emanating from the mouth of a fasting person, or coming out from a mouth of a fasting person, is better in the scale of Allah than the smell of musk. So why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the reward for fasting is for him? Because for each person is different. There are people, yes, a lot of us are fasting this year while we are home, but there are people who are fasting under different conditions. Those who are fast and different places. we know the reward for those who fast in Mecca and in Medina because of the proximity of the Bayt al-Haram in Mecca and Masjid al-Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam in Medina, and the same thing goes for Jerusalem because of the proximity of Al-Aqsa Mosque. The reward is much higher, right? But also there are some people who work in, for example, some people work in construction and they fast, right? We can't, you can't say that the reward of that person who's working on construction outside, whether in the hot weather or the cold weather, wherever is the weather, and you are in the comfort of your home, to be the same. You follow what I'm saying? So Allah will reward each one based on their perseverance, the patience, and the difficulties of the fasting that they are going through. And that's why he's saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam referred to Ramadan as the month of perseverance due to the necessity of the perseverance and patience during this month. There are some countries, another thing why Allah will reward it differently. There are some countries in Europe where Muslim brothers and sisters are fasting 20 hours. I believe we are fasting here about 16 hours this year. There are some countries 18, 19, 20 hours in Europe. I think in Finland and a couple of other countries, and they fast 20 hours. It can't be the reward the same for those who fasting 20 hours and those who are fasting like us 16 hours, right? So wrap your mind around that. So due to this, as well as to the suffering of the pain and of hunger, thirst and weakness of the body during the fasting, Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, both of them, he's the son of Al-Khalifa Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Prophet ﷺ, no one knows the reward of a fasting person except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because that's based on the perseverance and the patience and the difficulties for each fasting person. The reward for righteous deeds varies due to different reasons. For example, due to like I just mentioned, the sanctity of specific places like Mecca and Medina. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned that praying in my masjid, Masjid al-Nabawi, is 1,000 times greater in reward than any other place anywhere, except for Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, which is 100,000 times, right? And Masjid al-Aqsa 500. So the rewards of fasting there, it gets multiplied by that much because of the proximity of these three most important MAsjid in the Muslim world. Among the virtues of this blessed month is that the reward for good deeds is multiplied by up to 700 times for those who purify their intentions and perform their actions purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as those who opened in charity from their wealth, provided that their wealth comes from, has to be lawful means, has to be halal, their wealth. It can't be from haram, from gambling or from selling liquor or from any sources of haram. It has to be all pure money or interest. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts charity which is from halal, lawful means only. Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, Allah accepts charity with His, referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right hand, and then increases it in reward for the person giving it. Just like one of you raises his colt. Colt is a male horse who is younger than 4 years old even, until the reward for it becomes the size of a mountain. This is muttafaq alayh in Sahih al-Bukhari wa Muslim. The companion Anas ibn Malik, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, charity extinguishes the anger of the Lord and protects the giver of it from an evil end. The Prophet ﷺ also said that the shade of the believer on the day of judgment will be his charity. And what month better than the month of Ramadan to give charity? This is the month, as we all know, that the Rasul ﷺ was most generous right, was the most month that he was giving charity all through the year, but the most he was giving charity was in the month of Ramadan. Charity given in secret, it's true, charity given in secret is better than that given openly, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي وأن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم ويكفر عنكم من سيئاتكم والله بما تعملون خبير. Allah tells us also in Surah Al-Baqarah chapter 2 verse 271, if you disclose your charitable expenditure, they are good, that's fine. And certain cases you want to do that, as Allah mentions in other ayat in the Quran, that it's okay to spend money secretly and in public. And in public, the reason behind it certain times is to encourage others to donate. And it's also because in certain charity that you are doing, so that others don't go around saying, oh, he's asking us to pay money to send charity, and it doesn't show like he's pouring anything. So and he's not showing off. The person is not showing off. The person is telling them, I'm showing you that I'm doing so. That just like Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam would show the companions that he was giving the charity, so he would encourage other companions to go ahead and do the charity. But definitely doing it in secret is higher reward, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the continuation of the ayah goes, but if you conceal them the charity and give them to the poor, it is better for you, and Allah will remove from you some of your misdeeds thereby. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with what you do is fully acquainted. So the last so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam narrated, this hadith is narrated by Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, the 5 daily prayers between the 2 Fridays, the 5 daily prayers between the 2 Fridays and between the 2 Ramadans will wipe out all the sins committed between them if the major sins are avoided. Again, Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him, narrated that the Prophet ﷺ said the 5 daily prayers between the 2 Fridays, whether Ramadan or not Ramadan, and between 2 Ramadans, may Allah give us life for the next Ramadan, extend our life until we witness next Ramadan even, will wipe out all the sins committed between them if the major sins are avoided. Terminating or avoiding fasting in Ramadan is allowed to certain people, and this is the last thing I want to talk about because of the time we are in, the coronavirus time or the corona pandemic. So the main categories is that I want to talk about it, because there are excuses also for women for certain situations, but I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the sick and the traveler, but I'm focusing on the sick. So there are some brothers and sisters inflicted with that. And what does the coronavirus do? It attacks the immune system. And our immune system tries to protect our bodies. So it's trying to attack that virus. And in doing so, what happens? The temperature goes up. So what happens when the temperature goes up? We are getting dehydrated. We need to drink more water. So a person inflicted with that should not. That will be like committing suicide. If somebody is inflicted or is sick with the coronavirus, he or she goes and decide they want to fast. They shouldn't. And that only applies, and I'm not talking to everyone who's not sick. I'm talking to the ones who are diagnosed with it and they are literally sick. They have the temperatures, they have the chills, they have all these symptoms of the corona, and they are diagnosed, they are a coronavirus patient, right? They need to drink a lot. They need to stay hydrated. They have the excuses. There will be other times they can make it up later on. May Allah extend their lives and for next Ramadan, and they can make all, and it doesn't prevent them to do the good deeds if they are not fasting. They still can do the good deeds and will be rewarded 700 times over. Allah knows they have good excuse, right? And they can make up these days before next Ramadan, inshallah. They have valid excuse and they need to take care of themselves. They shouldn't care about, oh, maybe my cousin will see me not fasting, he will talk about me, or my friend. Don't worry about what other people say. Worry about what Allah thinks of you. Don't worry about what people think of you. And this is the point I want to emphasize to our brothers and sisters who are inflicted with that disease. May Allah give them speedy recovery, inshallah, and give them strength and patience to overcome this disease and become in good health again like they used to be before it. I ask Allah to forgive for all our sins, and I would like to remind myself first and foremost, and you, with hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, 2 words, very light on the tongue, very heavy on the scale of good deeds, and very beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the merciful. And they are Subhanallah wa bihamdih, Subhanallah al-Azim. Say it at least 100 times a day, even if you can do more. It's very good. These are the words that you are glorifying Allah and praising Him, and the more you do, the more it becomes good for us, and the reward for it is huge on the day of judgment, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. Ask Allah for forgiveness. He's the most forgiving, the most merciful. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.